Cannabis wasn't a one-trick pony. It's not just put cannabis in an edible and give it to people. There are plenty of inventors out there that have genius ideas, but if you can't put together the manufacturing and scalability of it, you can't understand your consumer and the market.
Hey friends, welcome to Manufactured Excellence. I am your host, Ry Russell, and I'm so excited for this new show. We've had some incredible guests join us already. We've learned a ton, and we're going to continue learning because we are on this journey of manufacturing excellence together. And we're learning from each other, and we are providing that platform where we can connect and network with other innovators in our industries and really propel and move the needle for ourselves and for our business. And so, a couple weeks ago, I had the privilege on another show that I work on, as most of you know, WeedBudz Radio. I had the real honor of speaking to a pioneer of an industry. And Nancy Whiteman from Wana Brands educated myself about what it took to really develop a brand in the cannabis industry. And I was sharing with our friend Shauna, who works with the PR side of Wana Brands, along with Nancy, a little bit about manufactured excellence and the community we're building here. And when I shared that with Shauna of, I'm also trying to pioneer some excellence in my manufacturing business. And Shauna said, we've got the guest for your show. And she introduced us to Mike Hennesy, who is joining us from Wana Brands to talk about innovation in manufacturing. Mike, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Ry. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, Mike, I'm curious, when I think of Wana Brands, I think of this powerhouse brand, the marketing of edible products in an industry that is growing so fast. However, I know that a product can't go into market. You have to have different departments of a team to really manufacture excellence. And you've got to have a team that can sell something, but in order to sell that thing, you have to have a team that can make something. And so I'm really curious if you could share with us a little bit about how did you first start creating things outside of Wana Brands? Like, how did you know that you wanted to be an innovator and a creator?
You know what? The answer you don't want to hear is I had no idea.
I do want to hear that.
Yeah, I truly had no idea. I started consuming cannabis in college. That was my first introduction to the plant. And back then, I really had no idea that I was going to be talking with you here today or working for one of the largest cannabis edibles manufacturers in the country. So, if you asked me, 10 years ago where I'd be today, I wouldn't have guessed here. But that's what's so exciting about the cannabis industry. I started consuming, I found personal benefits, but it was really, I had a roommate in college that turned me on to the medical benefits. He had epilepsy and it truly changed his life. And around that time, Colorado was just starting to legalize cannabis. They had voted in 2012, the year I graduated. And I had a friend that moved out here and pretty much encouraged me to come join him in Colorado and get involved in the cannabis industry. Coincidentally, we now both work at Wana Brands years later. So definitely a small world there. I actually started as a sales rep, so I had nothing to do with product development.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I started as a sales rep as things went to adult use. I managed the sales team, saw our growth go up 200%, 300%, and just continue to increase. We started to enter new markets. Things were really exciting. I enjoyed sales, but I wasn't passionate about it. So I started having some conversations with Nancy about other opportunities within the company and where we might have needs and what we could do to develop that. And came up with a role around innovation and R&D. It was actually a brand new role at the company, but we were looking at how we could diversify the kinds of experience we were offering, getting beyond just launching a new flavor and actually coming up with new products that change the market, materially offered something new and different. And so that's kind of the story of how I got involved as the VP of innovation, coming from very different beginnings.
That is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, because something for me, Mike, that I've struggled with is, and I told Nancy before on WeedBudz, I so get the sales and marketing side of a business. I get that side of the business. And I'm so learning the manufacturing side and the operational excellence side of the business. And that's one of the opportunities I have within podcasting, right? Is I get to learn and kind of put myself out there of, wow, I have passion. Like, I love sales, but man, the opportunity at creating things is just so powerful too. And you had the courage to do something about it, which is powerful in and of itself. Do you mind kind of telling me, like, put me in that spot of like just the nervousness of asking your boss for a new job?
I had gone to school for environmental science, so I've been scientifically minded. I used to be really into developing technologies. I was in a bunch of student associations where we'd make robots and we'd make, industrial design and technological
So cool.
design. So I always knew I enjoyed that aspect of things. And what I didn't realize is that cannabis wasn't a one-trick pony. It's not just put cannabis in an edible and give it to people. It has its own whole toolkit. It comes with so many different levers that you can pull, so many different ways that you can change and create nuance in the product, in the experience. And so that's all on the product of cannabis, but every individual is super different as well. The way it affects us. And that meant that there was a lot of science to learn about the cannabis plant, about cannabis products, and how those products affect people differently. I think, a lot of this started to come together as we would think about what some folks didn't like about cannabis edibles in particular, that sometimes it would take too long for them to kick in, or the experience would be too long lasting or too intense. And Nancy really saw that there was room to innovate and try and find a solution for that. Something that was probably going to be pretty scientific and supply chain driven of how do we actually change the formulation. We can't keep going on with the product as is. And that's where this idea of creating new products, fast acting edibles, effect specific edibles, and utilizing science and new technologies to drive that. So it was really a mutual decision. I think it was Nancy's vision that this is something that would be important to the brand, and my willingness to step up and try something new, as well as to give up sales and say, go find yourself a real sales manager that can take the company to the next level, which we really obviously have, which opened up a whole new road, highway, pathway for me to explore something brand new.
That's so powerful. Just like the amount of realness. I think that's why your company grew so fast. Because when I was speaking with Nancy, there was just so much realness in what you just shared with, like, you were real about what you wanted to do, about this passion that you had. I know Nancy had a passion for it. And when I heard the story of, I asked, how'd you get here? I don't know. We kept doing these things. We kept making these decisions and evaluating along the way. Like, that realness was so powerful. And I just so appreciate that from you and the team. And, I think about Wana Brands when I first heard about the product, like gummies. Wana Brands is gummies. And I'm curious, was that the first product that Wana Brands came out with? And now, like you've kind of shared, you're looking at science and new technology. Where can that take us?
I don't think it was the first product. It was one of the first. It was one of the first products. But back then, cannabis edibles were new, and really there was no clear guidance. There was certainly no market research. You couldn't go out and poll consumers. You couldn't go on to things like BDS and Headset and see what's selling. When I was a sales rep, our menu was long. There was very few products we didn't make. Just about anything you could put cannabis into, well, we were manufacturing that and selling that. But it was that early starter as an OG cannabis company in Colorado that gave us the opportunity to learn consumer preferences and learn about what products made the most sense to carry cannabis. And that started to come through quickly. It didn't take long to start figuring out what did and didn't work. Some things didn't work. Beef jerky,
Sure.
not so much.
What was it about beef jerky that was a challenge or is a challenge?
Well, the list could go on there, but obviously consumers
Sure.
aren't interested in it to
Okay.
start with. It's
Yeah.
difficult to manufacture. It's no fun on the manufacturing side. It's no fun on the sales side, and consumers weren't that into it.
I love that. Because that's the process of deciding a product. So many startups, I do it all of the time in startups, is I've got a service for everybody. I've got a product for everybody. I'm here for everybody. And then I find myself like over a year or two, like, wait a second, no, I'm not. I'm being real. I'm not for everybody. And this is my offerings. And then I just saw, an explosion in business.
Yeah, actually, to your point about offering something for everybody, that's where gummies really came in. Is that we
Okay.
realized that all of these other product forms could mostly be achieved the effects wise, what the consumer is looking for through a gummy. Um, I
Interesting.
think gummies are already a delivery service for nutraceuticals, supplements, vitamins. Obviously, it's a very natural way to take products. It's also very natural to eat one gummy for an effect. Whereas if you give me a chocolate bar and you tell me I can only eat 1/10 of it, I
That's
can
not
eat one
fair.
gummy. Right, it's not fair. So gummies ended up, I like to think that edibles are more of a drug delivery system than they are about the edible themselves. It's how do you get the cannabis into your body? You don't have to smoke it. You don't have to have flour. You can have this very shelf stable, delicious product form that can deliver cannabis for a multitude of different uses. And you can have one and enjoy just one.
That is really what I really see about your role is this bridge between the innovation, manufacturing, and sales and marketing. Your background in robotics developed some skills and some interest and passion. Your salesmanship and your ability to speak publicly was clearly successful on the sales side. And then you created this bridge of almost communication, it seems like, between the creators of the product and those trying to really create a brand with the customer of what do you want? And then here comes Mike, like, wait a second, we need to drive communication, and that will inspire innovation.
That's nail on the head. That's I think what innovation is really all about. It's not the ideation. It's not about understanding the newest cutting edge science. That's important, but that's one piece of it.
Sure.
Innovation is the practical application of all these different aspects of a business. So there are plenty of inventors out there that have genius ideas, but if you can't put together the manufacturing and scalability of it, you can't understand your consumer and the market, um, and you can't synthesize and synergize all these areas of the business to create the actual product in beautiful packaging with messaging, scalability. You're not really delivering innovation. You just have an idea.
Mm, that's really powerful. And ideas are part of the team and they're part of inspiration, but they're not innovation in and of itself. Innovation really and that was one of the things I really wanted to discover with you today for myself. And I hope all of you got that as well. As innovation really is the ability to communicate between thinking, discovering, evaluating, and doing.
Exactly. It's the culmination of many different areas, and it's putting those together. It's creating something new based on a wide range of ideas. So they've got
Absolutely.
the scientific research. We've got consumer feedback. That's one of the advantages of being a company that's been around for over a decade. We have lots of consumer feedback. So we can take these new ideas from research, what we're hearing from consumers. We can do research on the market itself, and then we can take all that and try and develop something new. Go through the iterative process of new formulations, then
Mm,
test and evaluate those, right? So there's many, many different aspects of it. But once you even have a product, you then have to figure out how do we scale it? How do we bring in manufacturing? What's the supply chain going to look like to get there? And how are we going to market this? How are we going to sell this? What do we need to educate people about why this is something new? All of this needs to be synergized together. And that's one of the advantages of having an innovation team is we can be that central department that brings everything together, taking in feedback from different areas of the business to help drive that innovation.
That makes total sense. You've got it. So let me ask this question, Mike. So innovations at Wana Brands, would you consider yourself having a team around you that drives innovation?
Oh, it's the whole company. I honestly,
Wow.
my team couldn't do anything without every other department. We would never accomplish anything. We have a very, very small, lean team, and actually, I think that having an innovation and R&D team in a cannabis edible company is not all that commonplace. I think to have a dedicated
I
team,
agree.
multiple staff members working on this is unique, and that says a lot to Nancy's vision of how she sees the future of the company growing, right?
Well, and a lot of trust in you to see that vision come through. And so like you have to be able to project manage, because if you're communicating with all these departments, like that's one of the things I struggle with Mike is there's all these inputs, all of this feedback, sales has feedback, marketing has feedback, manufacturing has feedback. How do you take all of that feedback and create a system to inspire an idea for a product, come up with the product roadmap, if you will, and then that market, like do you mind kind of taking me through like an example of like what that roadmap might look like?
Yeah, absolutely right. For one, you've already hit on it. It's communication. It's what we've been talking about.
Totally.
That's number one, right? But let's look at what I think has been one of the most exciting products we've launched recently, which is our fast-acting edibles. They're available here in Colorado and coming to new markets soon, but that starts with the idea. And ideas are going to either come from consumer feedback, scientific research, or internally. Like you said, all departments have new ideas. So it's being open to new ideas. That's where it really starts. And it's by having many different channels for that information to be coming in. So on the entrance to the pipeline, you have many different inputs. That's how I think you would generate diverse ideas. It's how you can select new ideas. And then there's a bit of a screening. Before we want to start development, you have to screen those ideas. Some of them are going to be better than others. Some may be great, but the timing isn't right. So there's a bit of a screening process. And that's talking it through with, at the executive level, what makes sense for the company, what new ideas are most engaging and exciting, and which ones could we actually deliver on, which ones might be outside of our scope. So you got the bit of the screening, and then it goes into the development process. Once you've screened down to a few ideas, you start developing, you do iterations, you do focus groups and sensory evaluations, really testing out the product to see if you've achieved what you're trying to aim for in that idea. From there, it's when you get close to finishing development, that's when you bring everybody in together. You got this new, not just idea, but you have something to show for it. You have a product that you're able to sample. And that's when you start getting sales feedback, you start getting marketing feedback, ideating what message you're going to have. How is this going to be produced? Where are we going to get the ingredients for this? And then that's where you really bring together all the different departments. And we do that through team meetings. We schedule these to really lay out and have everyone share their own voices and opinions on what they see out of this product, what those departments need to make it a success.
How long would you say it takes from an idea being created to that product going through that system to the marketplace? How long, like, is there a length of time? I'm sure the right time is we know when we know. We know when it's ready. But is there like any sort, like, would you say there's an average, like we spend 6 months, we spend 4 years on really evaluating a product before it goes on the market?
6 months would be amazing. 4 years would be pretty terrible.
Sure.
6 to 12 months would encompass most developments.
Okay.
It's really, what are you trying to achieve? If you're looking at changing up ratios and dosages, adding new flavors to, product line extension, those can be done on a 6 months timescale. If you're looking to create a whole new product form that either doesn't exist or one that your business hasn't created before, 12 months is actually a pretty fast timeline to be able to launch something brand new. But
And how
it
many
really
people
depends
are
on
on
the
your
organization.
team, Mike? Because for me, right, you've got small team, 6 to 10 people, and it's like, so you're kind of thinking that it's like, okay, wow, if it takes 6 months to a year for a powerhouse, I can cut myself some slack a little bit when things don't go as planned. And so I wanted that to kind of sit with the audience for a minute, because I do that to myself all the time. These golf tees, it's taken us a year and a half. We did this prototyping phase. We moved it to the hand mold, moved it to the prototyping mold. Now we need to go find our production partner and commercialization partner. And it's one of those things where when we started the company with 2 people, it wasn't going to take 6 months. There's just too much of all of that system that we needed to evaluate. And so I just wanted to share that with the audience, because that really made it real for me and put some perspective on it, that if a really powerful team can do this, then it's okay for some of us to take a little bit longer. So I didn't know if you would mind kind of sharing, like, you're working on these products, they take 6 to 12 months, but it's clearly, not just you on it. And so many of us put so much pressure on ourselves, and we can't manufacture excellence that way.
As far as my team's concerned, we are small. We're a team of 4, but that's a very
Wow.
focused group that all we do is R&D.
Sure.
But as we've already said, we're relying with our project managers who are going to interface with marketing, labeling,
Yeah.
QA, compliance. These are all critical components, not to mention, obviously, manufacturing and sales, and then being able to take that to out of state. So to really put a number on who all is involved, it's a lot greater than just 4. The team is
Totally.
far beyond just what the R&D and innovation team is doing. We're kind of at the core creating the new development, but none of this can get pushed forward without the whole team working synergistically.
That's beautiful. And Mike, I'm curious, with all the new science and technology that's coming out, can you give us a hint of maybe what types of products could be coming in the future? Like, is there any? I feel like beverages are a huge opportunity. And like I said, I think myself and most of my peers, when we think of gummies, we think of Wana Brands. And so I'm curious, is there anything else that you're excited about that coming down the pipe? Like when we think of something, we might think Wana Brands.
Well, product form wise, I think we're still seeing a lot of that shake out. What are the product
Sure.
forms that people are interested in? Obviously, gummies have risen to the top, and I don't think they're going anywhere.
No.
Beverages are a really interesting example that you brought that up, because beverages represent a fraction of the market right now.
Right.
And that's interesting because if you look outside of the cannabis space, beverages represent a pretty large market share for obviously alcoholic beverages, but health and wellness beverages as well. If you go into a supermarket, there's whole walls of different kinds of beverages.
Right.
So, I don't have a crystal ball, and I couldn't tell the listeners whether or not beverages will take off, but there's certainly an area to watch and look at.
Awesome.
There's known traits about beverages that are really convenient for users. It's a well appreciated product form that could be amenable to cannabis products in the future. But what I really think is most interesting is finding a product form that consumers like and innovating within that product form.
Interesting.
I think there's been a lot of interest and talk, and you might even be alluding to this, around artisanal style products, things that are chef inspired, new, absolutely, crazy flavors and really awesome product forms that are just
Sure.
decadent to eat, really, really nuanced, bringing in expertise from the kitchen to develop that. That's exciting to me. That's all well and good. But what's even more exciting to me is pairing great food, great edibles, great taste and flavor with great experiences.
Yeah.
Cannabis, we all got started with cannabis, not because of how it tasted, smelled, or looked, but because of the way it made you feel. And that's still true today. And that will be true 20 years from now. It's about how it makes you feel. We are delivering an active compound. It's a drug, and it makes you feel a certain way. And so people that understand and want to innovate around that, I think are going to be most successful. That cannabis offers many nuances of effect from all the different chemovars or the strains of cannabis. They're known for having different effects, and people prefer some over others. We've obviously had this distinction of indica and sativa, which is a bit of a misnomer. There's so much hybridization there that indica versus sativa doesn't mean a whole lot. But on the specific strain level, there's different effects and they affect different people different ways. So dialing in and creating artisanal experiences, I think, is what's really going to be the future of cannabis edibles. It's how can we deliver what the consumer is looking for? And it might be different for the same person at a different time of day, whether they want to focus on some work or if they want to go hang out with friends and have a grand time. You know, you can have a lot of fun, you can have a lot of creativity, you can also have a lot of restfulness, mindfulness, even, you know, getting better night's sleep. These are all effects that can be accomplished with the right cannabis strains, the right formulations of cannabinoids and terpenes.
You told me you had passion for the plant when we started this episode, and I totally got that. Like, that was, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, no, I seriously am. It has the power to change the world if we let it and we nurture it in the right way.
And that's powerful. And I hope all of you sit on that for a moment. Mike, you have inspired me and you've encouraged me. It sounds like you've got some good friends around you that you've encouraged and have encouraged you to take some risks. So I know I'm super excited to stay connected with you, to stay in touch with you, continue obviously to follow your journey as well as Wana Brands. And for those individuals that were just like, oh, we can do this. There's so much opportunity to inspire, to innovate, and to encourage within this industry we're passionate about. How do they connect with you more?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn, so please find me, Mike Hennesy, on LinkedIn. You can absolutely reach out to me there. And then my email is simple. It's mike@wanabrands.com. So reach out and let's connect.
Oh, I hope all of you do that. I hope check out our show notes, manufacturedexcellence.com, and we'll have all of those links there for you to connect with myself and Mike and ask us questions. You know, we're here, and we wouldn't offer our LinkedIn's if we didn't want to actually learn about what you're working on and what you're up to. So head over to the show notes, connect with us. We really appreciate it. Mike, I really am excited to follow your journey. I just am so inspired by your courageousness to walk in, go to your boss and say, I want to innovate. And have an inspirational leader that says, I want innovation.
Thank you so much, Ry. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Yeah, same here, Mike. Thank you. And thanks to all of you. We'll see you in the next episode of Manufactured Excellence.